Now we're onto the cam chest. Last thing I just want to verify before I start pulling the lifter blocks, I just want to pop this cam cover off. Take a look at the cam gears, make sure those are all set up right. Which means I need some little tiny guys. For the ignition plate and points cover. Which is actually pulling out the entire cam point plate retainer. So that's not a good sign. I wonder if this outer one is actually cross-threaded in there. That'll make this interesting. Yeah, bolt stuck. So you should have little screws that go here. These go into your cam adjuster. On this one, it looks like the cam adjuster and the bolt are stuck. Grab some pliers. Break those free. Just like that. So ignition on an Evo, it is electronic. This looks like a Dyna or Dyna S. Yeah, it is Dyna S, blue and white wire. So basically you're still going to use a mechanical advance, and it's just an electronic pickup. So instead of an actual true electronic, it's a points replacement. Instead of the points opening and closing, it's just running a magnet. If you're into car stuff, it's very similar to like a Pertronics drop-in type thing. Which are okay. I don't mind these Dynas. Usually a good idea to mark this if you're not exactly sure where the timing's at. You could have marked where these slots are, or mark the points plate or ignition plate. I'm going to be retiming all of this anyway, so I'm not overly concerned about it at this juncture. There's your mechanical advance. Springs are okay. Look to be in decent shape. The roll pins are okay. Check these. I've had several of these roll pins shatter or shear off on me. I've also had some of these springs break. Lots of different variables there. And make sure you have your inner roll pin as well. So start breaking the timing cover off and we'll be good. Alright, so on the cam chest, you got your two 1/2-inch bolts up front that go into a generator on earlier motors, oil filter housing on late models. Do the same thing pretty much. They go through the case and the cover. So on this, it's just an oil filter housing. Leave these here. Actually, I'll thread these into the oil filter housing. And you got a bunch of your 3/16 bolts all the way around the case. Same deal as the primary. I'm going to try and leave these bolts in place. Another way to do this, if it's all coming apart, which I'm not anticipating, if you grab a piece of cardboard, basically draw a rough template of it and just poke a bunch of holes for all the bolts. If you don't do this all the time, it definitely helps because some of these bolts are different lengths, at least on iron heads. I'm not sure on Evos. And like I said, when we got this bike, it's not like I don't trust the guy that had it, but in my experience, I've had enough issues with trying to drop in a motor that's, quote, running, and you end up fighting a bunch of problems that you don't know about and have to redo it. So while this is already out and the bike's not together, it's much easier just to give it a quick once over. A little bit of pressure and some tappity tap taps with a dead blow, and the cam cover comes right off. Ignition, all the wiring stays with it. And then we get into the cams. So basically the only reason I pulled this apart, I just want to verify that all of these are timed correctly. It looks like this motor hasn't been turned over since the time it was set up, since everything currently is sitting exactly where it's supposed to be. So all this pulling it apart wasn't really necessary. Looks like they used some gasket glue, gasket cinch or something on here, which is fine. Sometimes these cams will want to come out with the cover. I know on the older ones at least, maybe on Evos they tend to stay in a little bit better, but you got your timing marks here underneath this grease. Grab a rag. So you got a timing mark down in here, so these two lines match up like they're supposed to. One more over here, which matches up with your pinion gear. One over here that matches up to the front intake cam. And then your last one is going to be dot to dot back here, which it is. This is the one with 3, so this is the crucial one. Your rear intake is kind of the one that lines up with the pinion, rear exhaust, and your front intake. So make sure that those are all set. But if you're looking at the gears, they do want to sit this way, so don't mess that up. Everything on here looks to be proper and in spec, so that should be okay at a visual glance. Not going to pull the cams or adjust any of the shims because I don't think it needs it. And I don't think I'm going to pull the lifters on this either. That's easy enough to do. If we do run into any problems on the lifters down the line, we can go back and do that. But quick, pull the bolts off, quick visual inspection. You might have to replace the gasket if it sticks. In this case, I don't, because it is a brand new gasket and everything looks to be in spec. It stayed on the case, which is nice. So we're in pretty good shape. Got this cam cover back on, put the oil filter back on, and essentially I just need to I need a head gasket. These base gaskets should be fine. Then I need a head gasket. And if I remember correctly, I went through this. The trans does shift, and everything shifted through the gears proper on the bench when it was in the bike. But that's where we're at. I will start slapping this back together. Maybe I'll throw the camera on and just do a quick time lapse of the rest of that. But I gotta wait for the head gasket. So other than that, I can start putting everything back together except for that. Then this can go back in the bike. Just as has the frame all painted, we can start doing the final assembly.